Hi everybody, so today I have a very special video in mind for you. We're going to be baking, and I am joined by the lovely Miss Kay Wade. So a couple of weeks ago I was talking to a coworker about this book that I was reading and just losing my mind over, and we got to talking about what makes a good book great and all the other elements that have to come into play that just make everything work. So we got to talking, and the metaphor of it being like a cake came out. So Katie and I have decided to talk to you about two of our favorite books and relate it back to cake baking because we love baking, so why not? So today I'm going to be talking to you about Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell.
And I'm going to be talking about Divergent by Veronica Roth. So if you haven't read either one of those books, beware as you watch this video because there's going to be some mild spoilers ahead.
So the first element we're going to talk about today is the cake mix, or in this case, the setting and environment. So the setting itself in Fangirl is not a huge issue. It's not very remarkable, but I liked that. It's set in the Midwest, and it was a nice change of pace because, you know, today in contemporary novels, they don't do a lot about the Midwest. I mean, we're from Kansas, so it's nice that we're able to identify with that kind of a setting for once. I really do love that Rainbow Rowell, that she set this whole book in a college setting, because her whole fan base is either, well, the majority of it at least, is either currently in college or is about to go into college. She did such a great job of making the campus feel huge and intimidating one chapter and homey and cozy the next chapter.
Divergent takes place in dystopian Chicago sometime in the future, and the city is divided into 5 different regions where the 5 factions live and do their daily lives and work. And I really liked Veronica Roth's use of imagery. There was kind of this balance between the way that she wrote the scene and then my imagination was kind of able to take over and build it myself, so I was able to really put myself in it too, and that was really neat. And one of my favorite scenes was definitely the Ferris wheel scene, where you were able to kind of envision this tangled metal all around you, and you're climbing up higher and higher, and then all of a sudden you get to that top and you kind of feel the wind and you can see for miles, and I thought that was really, really great, because I'm an adrenaline junkie, and so I really related to that scene.
I love that you could also Google pictures of Chicago. Like, you could see the Hancock building where she went, was it not hang gliding? Zip lining. The next ingredient is eggs. Or, in this case, characters. I liked that Kath wasn't really a active or aggressive person like we're used to in a lot of YA novels. She was just so passive and quiet and not meek by any means. She was still very funny and smart and so relatable. I loved getting to read a fresh new book about a main character who in any other book would really be a side character at best. Reagan was an absolute delight. I loved all of her kind of sarcastic one-liners. The same went for Levi's scenes. Whenever he entered the room, before he even had like a speaking part, I could just feel myself smiling in anticipation. He was just like this little ball of sunshine. He was like Doug from Up.
So, you know, when I told my mom that we were going to make this video, she actually mentioned that eggs are used in cakes and baking as binders. So, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
so the metaphor kind of, okay, that holds up.
Exactly. So
cool.
I thought that was kind of cool.
Cool.
In Divergent, Triss is obviously the main character, and I really loved her in the books, but the movie just kind of,
we don't talk about
totally.
the movie.
It kind of compressed her down into this like really angsty teenage girl who just really didn't know what she wanted, and that really just didn't do her justice. And in the book, she's not like that at all. She's this really complicated, dynamic person who she's always thinking about her next move, and she's always thinking about what's going to be best for the group. So she really kind of embodies like her 3 aptitudes for, you know, selflessness and courage and really intelligent kind of cunningness. And 4 is kind of cool too because you start to love him. You kind of hate him at the beginning, but he gets a little bit more complicated as you learn more of his story as well, so he will grow on you for sure.
Husband material. Next we add water, or dialogue and character interaction. I liked that Kath wasn't a necessarily vocal or sassy main character like we're used to. Like I said, she's very passive and reactive in a conversation. All of her talks with Reagan in the cafeteria, they reminded me of my girl talks with my friends in the cafeterias. I had no trouble believing that these were real people.
So in Divergent, I think that there was a lot of really decent dialogue in the series, but I never felt like I could trust anyone the whole time that I was reading, because anyone could be lying at any moment, you know, through the whole thing. And at times that was really exhausting. You know, it was really stressful.
It was stressful.
And you're always on the edge of your seat, because every time that she would walk away from a conversation, Tris would kind of say that in her own mind, that she wasn't sure she could trust that person. She'd carry that with her onto the next scene. So Tris is very suspicious of everyone all the time, and she knows that everybody has their own agenda and everybody has their own angle.
Everything Eric said sounded like a death threat.
Oh yeah, no kidding. He was a really, really frightening character. Like someone you would not want to meet in a dark alley.
Oh god, no. Then we've got vegetable oil, writing style, and narration. Like I said before, Rainbow did such a great job of making me feel like I was peeking inside of people's real lives. It felt so personal and just precious. It was very rare for me to really feel that connected to any cast of characters as much as I did. It wasn't so much that I got attached to them, it was mostly that I identified with so many of them for different reasons. Rainbow's style of writing Kath's anxieties and insecurities was so subtle and beautiful. Like, Kath never had to explicitly say, I'm uncomfortable in any scene. Just the way that she would describe, like, say, a semi-crowded room that she would walk into, like, at Levi's house during the party. Which would not be a situation I would usually get, like, anxiety ridden over. But just the way that she described it and seeing it through her eyes, my hands would start to get so clammy and I would have, like, a vicarious panic attack. And that's kind of wonderful that, like, they could give me a fear that isn't my own. Like, it was just very effective writing.
I really, really liked Veronica Roth's writing style, especially when it came to the imagery she used. So there was a really healthy balance between the words that she used to describe the scene, and then my own imagination could take over and kind of fill in the blanks. And so it was very unlike, you know, stories like Twilight, where you had Stephenie Meyer and she would describe the scene for 4 pages before anything would actually happen, and that was just rough.
We get it, you're in a 4. Let's
yes,
move on.
Exactly. The other thing, I think, was Veronica Roth's use of inner dialogue with Tris. So as the story went on, I, as the reader, could kind of see how Tris was processing that information and how her experiences would affect her response to new situations.
Next, we're going to mix everything together and bake it, and in the meantime, we're going to talk to you about the conflicts. There was never just one conflict in Fangirl. It wasn't like one driving force or antagonist in the book that she was fighting against. It was a lot of kind of everyday struggles. I mean, she was dealing with her feelings for Levi and how that would affect her friendships with Levi and Reagan. She was dealing with growing apart from her sister, and that was so hard. She was dealing with her dad being in the hospital and his dependency on his girls, and her estranged mother coming back out of nowhere. She had thousands of fans online that were demanding her attention for her fan fiction. Not to mention, she was kind of fighting with her original fiction teacher. And all of this on top of having to move into a new school and environment and having to deal with her whole first year of college. Everything seemed to come at Kath at once. And, you know, I would argue that she was the antagonist of this book. She was her own worst enemy. Most of her struggles were internal. Like, that's not to say there weren't, like, total douche canoes like her mom and Nick. I mean, just don't even get me started on them. But she really was the cause of a lot of her own troubles. And I really liked that. That was such cool writing.
The obvious main conflict in Divergent is that there's this highly intelligent demographic of people who's trying to take over the faction society and restructure it into a way that they see fit. So there's this struggle between Tris and Janine, so that goes back and forth. But then I'd also say that there's some deeper themes of conflict in the series that also need to be addressed. There's a lot being said about class warfare and society and politics. Plus there's this inner conflict with Tris where she's kind of trying to figure out where she fits in all of this that's going on around her and where she plays a role in this whole ordeal.
And now for the icing on top, the wow factor. What made this book stand out for me so much is that it wasn't this action-packed adventure and it wasn't this epic romance. It was just so relatable. Fangirl is a love letter to our generation and to anyone that's ever been a fanboy or a fangirl. especially the Harry Potter fandom. This was an especially big shout out to us.
Yeah.
The people that grew up with like a show or a movie or a book series that just, it changed us. Like from little kids to teenagers, we got to see something grow and we fell in love with it. And Rainbow did such an amazing job of portraying the fandom and also the meta aspect of getting to read Kath's fan fiction and just like the snippets of Simon Snow. It made me, that was such a cool touch. I love any kind of like meta humor that authors kind of throw in there, like referencing that it's a book. I love that aspect. I wish more books would do that.
What made me love this series, and the first book especially, was how easily I was able to place myself in Triss's shoes and experience the story just as it was happening. I think that's partly due to how I was able to experience reading the book totally on my own. I knew the movie was coming out, but none of my friends were reading it at the time, and so like this book was mine. It was something that I was reading by myself, that I fell in love with on my own, and so the characters were very personal to me because I wasn't getting other people's viewpoints of them at the time, so that was really cool. And I think it's also due to the writing style and the aspect of that where there was this right combination of elements for me to really enjoy it. And can we talk about those gorgeous, gorgeous hardcovers? Like, I thought they were so cool, pretty. So minimalistic, and they almost look like video game covers.
No offense to you, don't waste your time. Here's why. Now, your love is too high. Bring me down. Can't nothing bring me down. I said, bring me down.
Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.